I started, so when I was at school, when I was a teenager, you do things on your course obviously, and then I started doing things off my own bat because I got impatient waiting for the next thing that I could do. So I did a lot of like short plays that we took to like youth festivals and things like that. Lots of 2 and 3-handers, things that I would write specifically for. I would usually be in these as well just because it was quicker. So I remember it was usually the same 3 people. It was me and 2 friends of mine. I'd be like, right, I can write this play. There's just the 3 of us and it's one set, and I can just make sure that there's a joke every other line. And that means that wherever we take it, whatever youth festival, even if it's not done incredibly well, at least I know there'll be some laughs in it. And I think I was very conscious all the time of, I felt a lot of people who were, it's the same in anything, it's not just a theatre thing, but there are a lot of people who make art who are solely concerned with what it can do for them and what feelings they can get out of it, which obviously comes into it because people wouldn't do something if they didn't get something out of it for themselves on some level. But I was very conscious from early on that there is an audience. Most of the time they've paid and they're expecting to not be wanting to leave the whole time they're watching. So I think my earliest stuff was comedy, just because I felt, if people get a couple of laughs, they'll feel they've had a good time, they feel they've got their money's worth. So I started doing a lot of comedy stuff when I was at school, and then eventually I got kind of a bit more confident to kind of muck about with kind of more dramatic, more serious topics, I guess, when I was at university. And again, I did stuff at university, but again, it was independently. I didn't really work with the societies or anything like that, because I was very conscious that I wanted it to be something that I could have control over. And then once I finished university, then I started doing things on the fringe. And I think I'd really recommend anyone who wants to write to produce stuff themselves on some degree, some point early on, and to make sure that you get a general audience. I think in some cities the fringe scene is very much the only people who go are people who are very into theatre, whereas in Manchester, where I was doing a lot of my stuff, it did feel like a more varied audience. As long as you marketed it in the right way, people would kind of wander in off the street and see what was going on. And I think it's a massive learning curve, because you are very aware if your audience aren't into it, because they'll just leave. If they've only paid 4-6 quid to see this show, if you don't hit every mark, then they will just walk out and leave. And I think it's the best and quickest lesson you can have, because you will see the moments where if you sit and watch the audience, because a lot of the time if you're doing stuff on a fringe, even if you're a writer, you'll be doubling up. So some nights I'd be doing the lights, or I'd be cueing the sound, or even occasionally I have to be ushering people in and stuff, So you get to sit and watch the audience in relation to what's going on. So you can hit absolutely every beat. You're like, okay, I completely lost them from about here to here, just because this is not dramatic, it's static, or this is a funny joke, but it doesn't play into the rest of the story, so it doesn't, and it's the fastest crash course you can have. And I think really I kind of cut my teeth on the fringe. I didn't spend a lot of time writing things and sending it off to people. I've only really been doing that kind of recently, now that I've got relationships with theatre. It was kind of an alien concept to me for a while. I was always writing to put on, which people should be, and I think sometimes you can get into a rhythm, even now, where you're writing for a literary department, or you're writing for a certain person that is going to read it, who has to, and you have to remember that you're hoping that a good couple of people are going to hopefully be paying to come and see it. So doing stuff on the fringe is a really great way to be very aware of that. So I try and do a little thing once a year, even if it's not a full show. Like last year I did like a Halloween show, so we did some short stories, and it just keeps you on your toes, because you think, I've slipped into doing this style of thing, and I can see here that it is not working in this context, or I can see here that this really works in this part but not this part. And I'd really recommend any writer to sit and watch their work, but have more than one eye on the audience, because you can completely feel it. It's a very easily graspable kind of feeling in the room when something's going badly or something's going really well.